Hello fellow humans and welcome to the Object 752 with the Stargazer camo. Now mind you, the camo costs as much as a tier rate premium tank, so stay the hell away from that. Now, it is being sold obviously in Wargaming's regular release regime of crappy crates, crappy price, then decent. Now we're in the crappy price phase for 17,500 for this vehicle or 15,000 for the regular tank without any equipment or anything of the sort. Now 15k is obviously too much for a vehicle like this. I would consider it for a maximum of 12k, probably more 10k. However, 15 is a bit too much, so you're basically overpaying for this vehicle if you are trying to obtain it. Which, for making credits, isn't your best choice, because then you're better off with the tier rate anyway. Let's have a look. Is a heavy tank featuring sloped frontal armor that you can pen very easily. An oscillating turret, that's never really an advantage because you have no gun elevation. A powerful gun and a 2-shell magazine, cool. It's decent acceleration. Take favorable positions. Good gun depression. We'll have a look at that. But, however, before we have a look at the statistics of this vehicle, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's have a look. Here, you have 2,500 DPM, which is pretty solid for an autoloader. You have 245 penetration, which is right there, not the highest. However, it is somewhere in there, basically. 430 alpha damage, which results in 860 clip damage, which is quite nice, actually. And you obviously have these 2-second shells. Now, the problem is, an autoloader with a 4-second interclip reload is always a problem, because if you can't continuously stay peaked for the duration of the entire unload process, you don't actually have an autoloader. If you would go to 5 seconds, 6 seconds, that isn't even an autoloader anymore at that point. So, the aim time and the accuracy are horrible, as you can see right here. Now, you want to have good aim time with an autoloader, obviously, because the faster you aim, the more accurate all shots of your autoloader will be. However, because the shredded interclip is so miserable, it doesn't really matter how bad this is. So it'll work out eventually. However, it is obviously massively worse than that of most of the other tier 9s that are in this comparison here. Turret dispersion is pretty good though, so that is something that is definitely a bonus. 8 degrees of gun depression, which is unusual for a Soviet vehicle. However, there are others that have more. So 8 degrees is right on that cutoff of that's good gun depression, so that is very nice. Now the mobility, it said good mobility, but where is it? It's effective power-to-weight ratio is slower than all the others in this comparison, and these aren't really amazing vehicles in terms of mobility anyway, so it ain't that fast. Wargaming. Obviously, it's going to perform better because only the crate snobs have them. So here we are with the armor on this vehicle, and obviously 8 degrees of gun depression is pretty good, if not for the oscillating turret, because normally you could hide the cupolas, but nope, they go right with you, which means you can be penned in the cupolas even if you're completely held down. Because oscillating turrets are more a disadvantage than they are an advantage. In most cases, also gun elevation. What is that? You don't have any. So oscillating turrets are most of the time just a disadvantage and not an advantage. So basically, your weak spots travel with you, which is not great. Now, obviously, the rest of the turret here is pretty much unpenetrable, 330 millimeters. Tank destroyers with premium ammo going to go straight through. However, there is a second layer behind that, so I wouldn't shoot here in the first place. You shoot it in the cupolas, because if it can shoot you, you can probably shoot the cupolas. That's not great. And now, obviously, lower plate's a weak spot always. The front plate doesn't have any armor really in the middle, especially if you angle it to the side. It still does retain some armor, but it doesn't have any armor on the side here, and then you can just pen the side anyway. So yeah, you can pretty much shoot through the front plate in a lot of vehicles under the gun here. Obviously, if it goes hull down, it gets very, very sick. But, you know, most tanks, you're going to go straight through the front plate. Anyway, now, sides, you have a skirt here, which is very nice against heat rounds. 70 millimeters of side armor, which is also sloped inwards, which is always a nice thing. So it's going to be able to side scrape somewhat reasonably well. However, there are no weak spots here either on the side plate, except that, but who's going to hit this? So side scraping could work relatively well. The armor looks decent, however, not very good for hull down because, again, the weak spots on the top travel with you. So, here we go. Now, obviously, we've already talked about the problems of this vehicle, and that is the mobility isn't as great as they say it is. The armor is well, the cupolas travel with you, so you're gonna get penned there anyway if the enemy has the ability to aim, which, to be fair, isn't very often. However, still, that is a definite weakness, and the front plates are not great either, especially when you're in a straight line to the enemy. Now, what do you have is an autoloader that does 830 damage. Unfortunately, it's miserable aim time and 4 seconds into clip reload, which is obviously not great because you have to peek for 4 seconds. In that time, some tanks can shoot you twice, because you obviously have to peek, then shoot, and then wait, then shoot again, and then retreat. And that's not just 4 seconds, that's 5-6 seconds, and some tanks reload in that time. So that's why the longer your autoloader runs, the worse it becomes. So have a look at this guy, especially like that, and tanks can hide a lot quicker as well. So 4 seconds is right on that barrier of it's not actually a real autoloader anymore. Which is not great, but it still works reasonably well. So this is not a bad tank by any means. It's decent. That's where I would put this vehicle. However, obviously, for the price that it costs, no. For 10k, sure, why not? But for what it's sold right now, absolutely not. And again, as you can see, while I'm depressing my gun, the cupolas are going with me. And exposing themselves, so yeah, that's not great to have. It's also not great is that guy, M6, is clearly not aware of how to play this game because he went city, and now we have a problem. Our mediums did an amazing job here of getting rid of their mediums, which means, you know, we have a pretty good chance here of winning this game. Now, the problem with the two-shot autoloader is, do you leave the one shell in the clip or not? In that case, I did. But, yeah, you can end up wasting a lot of DPM if you don't hit that second shell, which is obviously not great. So, overall, it is a tank that is somewhat more difficult to play than the average heavy tank. It's more expensive than your average heavy tank. It isn't really that much more rewarding than your average heavy tank. So, there's that. Now, obviously, if you get off 3-4 clips, you're going to do an insane amount of damage. That is what's good about an autoloader like this. You can do a lot of damage with a little amounts of peaks. That is the great thing about it. However, I don't think that makes up for the disadvantages of this vehicle. So, overall, I would stay away from it for now. It is a collector tank. Some things might happen to it. See if we can get some actual damage here. That would be lovely. But, probably not. Nice game. But, it can work well, obviously. However, I wouldn't recommend it for the price that it is right now. I wouldn't recommend it for people unless you really want it either. Now here we go for number 2, and we have no high ranked players. That is very lovely. But we unfortunately have a couple of guys that want to go to the bad side, but luckily they're not. That is good. Now, obviously I've already talked about the problems of the with you traveling weak spots, the meh front plate, the mobility that isn't as good as advertised, and the autoloader that doesn't really work as well as an autoloader as it should. However, it still remains a somewhat decent tank. Now, would I buy that said decent tank? No. Especially not for an overpriced price, because mind you, novelty is not value. Something being just new does not add value to it. It does not make it better. It does not make it perform better all of a sudden. That does not how it works. It has to be better to be worth more. It's not. So it's not worth more. Which means you should skip on it and not buy it for now. And obviously Wargaming knows that. They know that it's not worth more. But enough people think that it makes it worth more when they buy it, and then Wargaming makes bank. So don't fall for the goddamn marketing. Some of you probably will anyway, because, you know, this is Blitz. Intelligence, not the people's strong suit here. But please don't fall for this. The first cycle is crates. The second cycle is overpriced. The third one, then the tanks might be sold for a decent price. That's when you buy it, if you want it. Don't buy it the first 2 times, because that just tells Wargaming, oh, I'm stupid enough to not know how to use my gold. That's all it does. So, ouch. That's all it does. And obviously this is, I didn't buy this. This is a different account. So, duh. Now, let's have a look at this IS-6 here. So just gonna reload, have a 860 damage right into him. And that is nice. The high alpha damage definitely does help out in certain situations. But overall, it is not as great as it seems, certainly. Just because it's new doesn't make it good. Duh. Alrighty. Now, it's dead, because that's how you do it. You just, when you're on low HP, you push into the entire enemy for extra results. That is definitely how you do it. So, anyway, let's have a look at what we can do here. We only know where two of them are, the T-34 and the T-30. So let's now try and go around here. T-30 is one shot. And there might be, well, the Force is up there actually. And so is the T-69. So, and there's a T-49. There we go. Just because I'm good at this game doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. Okay. There we go. I most of the time don't know what I'm doing, and I still do super unicum. I can't explain it either. So, here we go. T-69. There we go. Now, the T-34 is all the way over there now, so I have to decide here, what do I want damage on more, the T-34 or the Force? Which one's the easier one to get damage on? Now, given that the Force is focused a lot harder right now, I will go for this T-34 because he's obviously pretty much alone, and no one's actually shooting him, so it is a lot easier to rack up damage onto him. Ideally, I can get another 800 damage right here as well. See, I don't care if I die here. It's whatever. Probably won't either. But if that object or something moves up here, but all I have to do here is now pump these two shots into him and then disappear from his sight, basically. I can do that. The T-34 is not very fast, and he's also not very patient, it seems. So now all I'm gonna have to do is go around this rock. Most cases he can't one-shot me anyway. And now we're gonna have to wait and see what we can do here. And our IS-3 friend bounced off him. Damn it. Alright, there we go. And dead. Nice, not too bad. Now, the vehicle, obviously, if you're a good player, it can be played very well. However, I wouldn't recommend it in its current state. And I would never recommend any crate tank or any second-line vehicle either, because they are going to be overpriced and they are going to be sold for more than what they're worth. So, don't buy this thing. Wait for it to be at a reasonable price. And thank you very much for watching. See you in the next one. Goodbye.